Now.
Yes.
Go for it.
Hi everyone, and this is the 5th edition of Drum Education Live, I think, is that right?
Yes.
Can't remember what
Yes.
it is at the moment. Good. And this week we've got the amazing Dom Famularo. How's it going, Dom?
Fantastic, guys. How are you?
Cool. Yeah, very good. So we had a long discussion beforehand about all the difficult questions we were going to ask you. So do you want to go first, Felipe, or?
No, you go first. You have a very interesting question.
Okay, so what I wanted to ask you about, because we know you as an educator and a clinician, and we're familiar with your kind of teaching side of things, I was interested about your professional playing career, because I've heard a little bit about it. Could you tell us, where you started playing, what was it like, and do you still do paid gigs, anything like that? So tell us about more the playing side of things.
Absolutely. Well, right now there are no playing gigs happening
Sure.
anywhere, so the business is flat. But going back several years ago, I started playing professionally at the age of 12. I have 2 older brothers and a younger sister. They played guitar and bass. My younger sister sang and played piano. We had a family band, and the band was actually good. At the time, in the mid-'60s, we played a lot of Beatles songs, and we started working pretty steadily, not only playing different private parties, but also weddings and whatever was going on at that point. So at 12 years old, I was working and making money and playing all different types of music. And then we started broadening out with different types of music into jazz and Frank Sinatra songs. And it really kind of widened me to a wide variety of music. And here in the New York area, you really have to play all different styles to survive. So we started working on rock tunes and jazz tunes and Latin tunes, ballads. So we started to really kind of expand our repertoire into a variety of different songs. From there, I kept on performing locally in the area. By the time I was about, mid-20s, the 70s, I started doing a lot of jingle work in New York City. And the jingle work in New York City was extremely lucrative at that time. There were many different, recording studios that were doing sessions as far as TV commercials, radio commercials, jingles, a little bit of everything. So I worked pretty steadily in that for a good, 4 or 5 years, until I decided to pull myself out of that. And I pulled myself out of it because at that time, the drug scene in the session world was really overwhelming. In the morning, you'd get there for a 9 o'clock session, and there would be coffee, donuts, and cocaine. And that was the routine of how people would get up in the morning. So I decided at the time, I was studying with the great Joe Morello and Jim Chapin and Shelly Manne. I was really working with some really serious educators, fine-tuning my craft. And I said, I'm not sure I want to go down that path as far as, joining these guys and getting up in the morning and doing this, then eventually getting hooked on it and investing money every week to have to maintain that. So I pulled myself out of that system and started going into more live playing. And that's when I hooked up with Lionel Hampton. I was a couple of days with Lionel Hampton's big band. I worked with George Benson, B.B. King. So I was freelancing in the New York area. I live on Long Island, so it was just a short drive to get into Manhattan. So I started freelancing with different bands. And then at a point, it was kind of interesting because B.B. King had asked me if I wanted to join him on the road. And when we discussed the finances, it was ridiculously low. It just wasn't enough money. I was making more money per gig than I would have been making per week. So now came the value of me saying, well, listen, what do I want to do now? Do I want to, playing with B.B. King, it's been fun, but if I go on the road, is it really going to help my career? Because I'm going to lose money. So that became the part of it. So I decided not to do that. The same thing with Lionel Hampton's band. I did the audition with Lionel Hampton's band. They offered me the gig to go on the road. When we sat down and discussed finances, it was bordering on insulting as a young kid to go out and do that. And I had my own band that I was playing out in Long Island, playing different clubs, and I would be making $150 to $200 a gig. And here they are offering $300 or $350 a week.
Oh, wow.
So I realized that for that kind of performing for other people, that didn't sit well with me. I had a home I was purchasing, and I wanted to be able to pay the bills. So I then got further involved in education. When I got involved with education, I kept my own band going on. I actually invested in a club for about 10 years, and I was the house band for the club, and I played there and had great musical times playing, 2 times a week, Friday and Saturdays, and it was just a great band, original music and some copy music. We used to pack the club and plug all types of music. We'd play Latin stuff, we'd play jazz stuff. So the playing thing always continued. Then I began to freelance. And now as I travel around the world, if I go to Italy, I'll pick up a band in Italy and we'll get a club there and I'll play a couple nights at a club there. And just as I travel, I'm able to play with musicians globally now.
See, I didn't know you did that kind of thing I knew you did the clinics, but I didn't know you were still playing with bands.
Oh yeah, there was actually a wonderful band I played in Cosenza, Italy. Massimo Russo put this band together, and we played a couple sets at the club. It was packed, and we played and had a great time. And actually, and the next day at that same club, I did a masterclass. So it was good to kind of combine. Everybody kind of went and heard me play and do my thing. And listen, the playing thing is an important part of the process. I'm not playing as much now as I used to, but the gigs that I do now, I'm playing with really great musicians.
Yeah.
So I came to the point where I'd rather work less with better musicians than just keep trying to play and not be satisfied musically. So that's the balance that I came to in my life. So at 66, I can kind of pick and choose who I want to play. At the Batuca Festival a couple of years ago with Vera Figueredo, she put a band together for me. I played with a trio. We did an evening of playing. There's actually some video of that on YouTube. And it was great. We just played with an acoustic piano and acoustic bass player and in front of a full packed theater. And it just, those kind of events were just really, really magical and memorable.
Yeah, amazing. Kira, what did you want to?
Well, I wanted to ask you about your solos. Because I saw, just this morning, I was watching an amazing solo you were doing. And you just always seem so present and in the moment. And I wondered whether you are able to achieve that every time you sit at the kit, and how you do that. And if not, if you have a backup that you go to, that you play, that will get you there.
Great question, Kira. And the answer to that is, I don't try to prepare myself to be in the moment for a solo. I continue to stay in the moment all the time when my eyes are open in the morning until my eyes are closed at night. So I believe, as I am talking to you right now, I am owning the moment right now. I am in the moment. We have none of these questions rehearsed, so I am reacting and improvising, and what I feel, and I go back to my spirit and my wisdom and my knowledge. Wisdom is a combination of knowledge and experience. Knowledge alone does not give someone wisdom, but knowledge put into action is where experience comes from. So with that experience through all the years, that gives you the ability of being able to have a large bag of tricks to pull from. So the first thing, as far as soloing, I absolutely never plan a solo ever. I only react to the moment at that time. If it's an individual solo that I'm playing at a festival or at a clinic, I never come out and just start playing a solo. I come out and I talk first. And I talk first to get to know the audience so I can feel the audience of how they react to my humor, how they react to what I might be teaching them, and how they react to my stories and the passion behind it. When I feel the audience reacting, that allows me to start to read the audience better. So when I finally am inspired to sit down to play a solo, I know where I want to go with that solo emotionally to reach that audience. And it changes from audience to audience. So I have to be as perceptive as possible. I've got to have the deepest amount of compassion. Compassion means to feel what other people feel. So I've got to be that sensitive to how they feel. So I know what I'm going to speak, whether it's verbally or whether it's dramatically, how I'm going to reach them. I also have another saying that I use where I say, rehearsal is for cowards. And I say that because when I hear bands wanting to rehearse and go over a song over and over and over and over, that loses the spontaneity, that loses the moment. A book that I wrote several years ago is called The Cycle of Self-Empowerment. And I wrote this book about 20 years ago. It sells in over 30 countries. Oh, thanks. And what's amazing about that book is I had to start with that book about empowerment, which means to give power. And the first place we should be giving power to is ourself, hence self-empowerment. And I came up with that because it's passion driven, and I have to now learn how to fuel myself to keep myself motivated and moving in the direction that I want in my positive life. The next book that I'm working on right now, which I'm probably about halfway to 3/4 of the way through, is called Owning Now. To own the moment, to possess the moment. This moment right now, I've got you guys are in the UK. I'm in my studio in the North Shore of Long Island. We are in a moment right now, and you have 100% of my attention right now. I'm not worried about the teaching classes that I just had this morning with students in China, nor am I worried about my next lesson that I have for the remainder of the day online, going to Germany and Argentina and Vancouver later on today. That happens when it happens. So I have to learn how to own now. And I believe we only own this moment right now. Yesterday is gone. This morning is gone. And I do not own tomorrow. I don't even own later. So I have to now keep my focus in this moment, at present, at now, all the time. So I live going from now to now to now to now, and I constantly work on owning that moment. So when it comes to soloing, I've got to rely on my bag of tricks from all my years of playing and all the different students, the students that I've taught, the student that I have become through all of my years of learning. I take all that information, and when I get to that moment at that solo, I just unleash emotions and allow the language of drumming to be dictated. And that's the journey.
I love that. I feel like it almost takes the pressure off, in a sense.
Yeah.
I don't know, like, you're being so intuitive and going with what the audience, you're getting from the audience. In a way, maybe it does take the pressure off because you're just responding.
The pressure is off me now. I'm just responding to your question, and of course, Mark's question to Felipe. I'm just responding to that. So there really is no pressure. You know, I was doing a performance at a festival in Canada several years ago, and Sergio Bellotti, who was a wonderful performer and teacher at Berkeley College, had been taking some lessons with me, and he was on the bill also. And I was the closing act. All the other artists had performed. They had about 10 artists on the stage, and I'm going out as the last artist to close the show and then do a finale. And I was standing backstage, and he leaned over to me and he said, Dom, they're going to introduce you now. Are you nervous? And I said, no, not really. He said, you know, do you know what you're going to say? And I said, not really. He said, well, when you walk out, where are you going to start? I said, well, I'm going to walk out and just start talking whatever is on my mind at that moment. I don't want to have anything pre-planned, because if I have something pre-planned, for me, it feels a little contrived. It feels like it was a little bit of a con that I kind of knew what I was going to do. I just went out and did that act, and I did that act several other places before. So to me, therefore, every performance and every lecture happens to be on the moment. So when I walked out on the stage and I said to the audience, I am so honored to be here. You have had so many great artists perform here, and I've been inspired by many of these great artists. And I started going down the artists and talking about the artists that were there, what I pulled from them, what I drew from them, what I learned from them, and how I pulled inspiration from them. I got talking into it. The audience was then applauding. They were getting involved in it. When I finally felt I had the audience closer to where I wanted, it wasn't until about 25 or 30 minutes that I finally said, you know, you guys have been a great, great audience. Now I'm ready to play for you. And now there was an emotional connection when I sat down to play. For me, it gets emotional. Sometimes my eyes well up. Sometimes I'm thinking of the moment of what it took in my lifetime to get where I am. I was a young child at 8 years old that had to wear glasses, so I was teased with wearing glasses. And then I had a tremendous stammering challenge where I stuttered as a child. And with that, people made fun of me with my glasses. They made fun of me with my stammering. So when I think of that child, who that was, it really was drumming and music that pulled me out and brought me into the real world, that allowed me to be the person I am today. And even though it's 66 years young, when I think of that, I never forget that 8-year-old boy that had challenges that turned it around by allowing music to be the guiding force.
That's really cool.
Interesting. Great question, Kira. Great question.
Did you have something to ask, Felipe?
I have many things to ask.
Okay.
Most of them I know the answers.
Do you mind if I ask another one?
No, go ahead.
Okay. So Felipe and I were talking in the podcast before last about musical challenges or challenges on the instrument. And I guess kind of two parts to this. What have you found most challenging about playing, technically or otherwise? And secondly, if you could go back to your younger self, if you could turn back time, is there anything you do differently?
Well, let me answer the second part of that first. If I had to go back to my younger self, I think probably what I would say is to learn to be present more. You know, as a child, we hear things and it's not necessarily, we're hearing it, but it's not necessarily active listening. There's a big difference. Hearing someone speak and they're speaking words is one thing. Active listening is where you are feeling what that person is saying. So I had many opportunities at the age of 18 to be with Buddy Rich, and we had many backstage conversations. And I remember many of them, but I wish I would have been able to take in more of it, because backstage at these Buddy Rich shows were Joe Morello and Elvin Jones and Max Roach and Carl Palmer and all these great, great drummers would be backstage. And I was just an 18-year-old kid just listening. I wish I was more present at that time to be able to take in and remember those stories and those anecdotes and those feelings that they had for each other, because there was a camaraderie with these drummers as we still have today. They were hugging and complimenting each other. It was fantastic. So I wish I would have been more present at a younger age. And that's why when I see students that come into me that are younger, I try to get them to be more actively involved in the moment. I think that's a very important part.
Yeah.
The first part of the question is what is challenging. I think challenging, there's two parts to that for me. There's learning new material, so I'm constantly widening my comfort zone. See, a comfort zone for me is what you know, what you're comfortable in. That scares me. So I am constantly trying to pull myself out of my comfort zone so I can be challenged. So when I come into my studio here and I start practicing on something, I sound like a beginner. I'm working on something and I'm having a challenge and I'm dropping my hi-hat in and I'm taking it slow and I'm taking the first beat and repeating it over and over until I get comfortable with it. Then I look at the second beat and I play the second beat. Then I play the first and second beat over and over again. Then I go to the third beat of it until I finally get the measure down. And I try to find things that are going to be pulling me out of my comfort zone. So that to me is a part of it. And that comes to not only playing the drum set, you know, technically and or independence-wise and coordination, but also hand technique. You know, there's one thing about learning hand technique and being able to develop a lot of these skills that I was fortunate to learn from. But the other part of it is maintaining it, maintaining our ability. To maintain it means I have to maintain a certain level of playing and practicing just so I can maintain it. That doesn't mean I'm entering into widening my comfort zone. That just means I'm maintaining it. Yeah. So I've got to maintain it and then step into the ability of widening my comfort zone. I think that's a very, very big important part of it. And Felipe Drago is a great example of that. Felipe, you know, he contacted me for some lessons, and we talked about at that time. I said, listen, you know, we really weren't doing that much internet stuff, and he booked a flight and came out here for 6 days, and we worked 8 hours a day, and we went down everything from hand technique to feet technique to the different techniques that I speak about, the Billy Gladstone finger technique, the George Lawrence Stone wrist rebound technique, and the Sanford Moeller whipping technique in all those different areas with all different hand positions. We talked about Germanic position, American position, and French position with all of those three techniques and the different Fulcrum positions. Man, we went through everything. 8 hours a day. We'd work I'd meet him at 8 o'clock for breakfast. From 9 to 1, we'd work 4 hours of intensity. And Kiara, it was like in the moment, in the now. I wanted to keep him totally focused, and I shut my phone off. I turn my computer off. I don't care what's coming in. When I'm with a student like that in those intensive lessons, it is 100% active. Then we take a break at 1 o'clock, go get a bite to eat for lunch, come back, and then work from 2 to 6, 4 more hours. And then Felipe would either stay in the studio and practice, or I drop him back, he'd get some rest. We'd do it again the next day, and we really hit it hard. So the intensity of what it was my job as an educator was to challenge him. Now, to me, a good lesson is when a student says to me, oh man, I did not play well in this lesson. I go, excellent. You're not supposed to impress me to play well. You're supposed to allow me to give you information that's going to challenge you so you feel awkward. You go back and you work on that, and when you come out and you start to feel better with that, I go, fantastic, you got that down? Let's go to step 2. Only for me to widen them again, to frustrate them again. So if I am frustrating that student, that's success. I love being frustrated. I love frustration. I gotta tell you something. I absolutely love frustration. And believe me, Felipe was frustrated. He got it.
Every day, all the time.
But he grew tremendously after that week. Why I love frustration is, think about it. The opposite of frustration for me is contentment. Listen, if I'm content, I'm happy, I'm not frustrated. I have everything I need and I'm totally where I am, no frustration. Contentment really scares me because contentment means I am satisfied with my comfort zone. I am not satisfied with my comfort zone. So therefore, I have to embrace frustration. If I embrace frustration, that means I am embracing growth. If I'm embracing growth, I am evolving. When a student comes to me and says, Dom, boy, I want to take some lessons with you. I want to go and I want to get to that next level. I want to go to that next level. I said, great. The only way we can go to that next level is you must absolutely embrace change. You cannot be the exact same person you are and go to that next level because the exact same person you are is at this level. The only way you can get to that next level is you've got to grow as a person, you've got to grow as a thinker, you've got to accept wisdom, you have to challenge yourself, you have to push yourself, and you have to be able to accept change. That's one of the hardest things to do. So to me, the technical aspects or the dramistic aspects, I work on 3 different areas here in my studio. I work on technical areas on my practice pad with several different books that I'm working on, hand and foot technique. Then I've got some snare drums that I work on a reading area where I have reading books, classical reading books and rudimental reading books. And many of them challenge me, but I take them nice and slow and go through them. And then I've got my drum sets behind me here, where I've got 2 kits here, and I'll hop on the drum set and go to that level. So between technical workout, reading workout, and drum set playing, those 3 different areas, I'm frustrated in all of them.
But let me tell you guys one thing that really scared me, because we spent every day 8 hours a day, just the 2 of us in that studio there, like working out like crazy. By the end of the day, I was knackered to the point that when I went back to the B&B, the lady who owned the B&B was like, oh my God, I look at you and I feel sorry for you. this man there, like, is 20 years my senior. He was like fresh as if he came out of bed. I've never seen energy levels like that in my life.
You know, it's kind of funny. And it comes down to, I believe, each person's desire to want to push themselves. So I am excited about life. And, you know, all of this dramistic stuff, as great as it is, there has to be the study of personal empowerment on what am I trying to do with my life? To me, I'm trying to lead a purposeful life, a purpose-filled life, that every day, if I'm teaching or performing, there's purpose to my life. And the further I push myself, I feel the greater areas of purpose I can then succeed in. If I keep myself at a lower level, I have a lower range of purpose. If I can constantly push myself, I'm going to reach more people and I'm going to have more fun and I'm going to be able to make a difference. So when I am long gone from this earth, hopefully my footprint can still be seen.
It will.
Well, time will tell. And hopefully that will not
exactly.
be for several more years.
Cool. Now I have a question, a technical question, because when you started, you play traditional grip. And not only you moved to matched grip, but you moved to matched grip open-handed. Why was that? And what inspired you to do that? Or who inspired you to do that?
Boy, great question, Felipe. I had the fortunate opportunity back in the 70s to meet Billy Cobham. And Billy Cobham, if anyone does not know that name, go do the research and do the homework. Billy Cobham is a brilliant, brilliant drumming artist, a brilliant musician, a brilliant composer. And Billy lived on Long Island, and I met him, early on. And Billy was the first one to start playing open-handed back in 1959, if you can imagine that. So I was already playing this way, traditional grip and cross-handed playing for many, many years. And then I started to realize when I saw Billy play, and then I started to see Simon Phillips, I got to work with Simon Phillips, another great player who plays open-handed. These guys just were able to do playing, whatever hand they wanted, it worked equal. So the question that I said to myself was, boy, how much better would I play if I had 2 right hands? The answer to that is 100% better. because now I'm not thinking of right hand lead. I'm thinking of what sound do I want? If I want this sound, I'll go here. If I want this sound, I just go here because it's a strong hand. So the object was to bring my hands up to that level the way Billy and Simon had it. So then it was on my mind, and I started getting frustrated with, as I was playing, I wanted to play a little bit more powerful, and playing traditional grip, playing more powerful in the snare drum was really a challenge, because to play it, I constantly kept on hitting this stick as I went to play, and it was, you know, I had to kind of, I'd raise my hi-hat higher, and now I'm up to here, and I'm playing, and it just kept on getting more awkward. So finally, I started, you know, reading a book. We entered the year 2000, and we entered the year 2000 on the cover of Time magazine was the story of Albert Einstein. He was voted the greatest mind in the 20th century. Now, that century that I was born in, here is the greatest mind in the 20th century, and I didn't know much about Albert Einstein. So when I saw that in the magazine, I started reading different books about his life, how he led his life. Now, I didn't understand the physics analogy of what was happening, but I began to understand the basic breakdown of his theory of relativity, the concept that he was teaching, how he lived his life. He moved to Princeton, New Jersey to live and teach out of the university there. A very interesting man and how he led his life. Very effective life. He only had brown suits. This way he didn't have to think about what he was going to wear every day. He put on the brown pants and just went. He had one white suit for special occasions. The guy never combed his hair. He didn't waste time in a mirror. That all the time that he would have wasted, he wanted to use that for analyzing the universe. So I'm reading this book, and now it's 2002, and I'm flying to Hamburg to play the World Drum Festival with the great percussion educator and player, Udo Dahmen, who runs the Pop Academy in Mannheim, Germany. And he had a university position in Hamburg. He put together a big festival. So I'm flying there, and I'm reading a book by Albert Einstein. And while I'm on the plane, I'm reading a comment that a reporter had asked Einstein a few years before his death. And they said to him, Mr. Einstein, you have created ideas that have changed the world. Einstein's theory of relativity basically opened up the design of the atomic bomb. It also opened up the idea of X-ray vision and developing X-rays, fluorescent lights, nuclear power. All of this came out of the thoughts of Einstein. He didn't invent all those things, but he opened the doors of thought for other people to use those opportunities to invent all these things. So all roads lead back to Einstein. This is a very powerful man. So I'm reading this, and the reporter said, Mr. Einstein, how have you been able to think out of your mind this way to open up these doors to create all these incredible opportunities for the universe? And he looked at the reporter and he said, you cannot solve new challenges with old solutions. I read that again. You cannot solve new challenges with old solutions. For me, it hit me like a ton of bricks. This was an old solution. The marching drumming and this concept, when we applied it to drum set, we remained in that old solution on drum set. Drum set is not a marching drum. Marching drum was on your side, you played it here. I get the technique there. But now we have a drum in front of us and we're not marching, we're sitting. So all of a sudden now we're taking old school traditions and trying to put it to face this new challenge. Well, Einstein said you cannot solve new challenges with old solutions. So at that point I said, this is incredible. I've got to go to match grip and I've got to go to open-handed playing. That will be the opportunities that will allow me to accept these new challenges. So I made the change right at that moment to play match grip and open-handed playing. I get to the festival in Hamburg, and the student who was assigned to me to help me with my drum kit has the drum kit. He goes, Mr. Famularo, we have all your drum kit here. Everything is set up. Is there anything else that you need? And I said, yes. Can you get me a hacksaw? He said, a hacksaw? You mean a saw to cut metal? I said, yes. Can you get me one of those? He said, absolutely. So the guy runs out and he comes back and he brings me this hacksaw. So I now measure my hi-hat because I want to lower my hi-hat to play this way so I can come down here. If I'm here, this is better than trying to do this. So the hi-hat wouldn't go low enough. So I had to cut the tube and I had to cut the rod because the rod was coming up to here. The hi-hat was down to here. So I had to cut the rod also. So I take this brand new hi-hat and I'm on my chair and I'm cutting this hi-hat like this here. And the kid comes up to me and says, Mr. Famularo, that's a new hi-hat. And I said, oh man, not anymore. And I cut the hi-hat. I cut it down. I moved the hi-hat low so it was now closer or equal to my snare drum. So now I sat down and I started playing here. So now I'm starting to play here as I'm setting up the kit. There's 1,500 people in line to come to this festival. I haven't even tried this at all, but I just knew that is where I had to go. So I go back to the point of saying rehearsal is for cowards. With all my years of experience, 37 years of playing, I felt I should have been able to adapt and create a solo out of that with that process. So now Virgil Donati, the great Virgil Donati, who is a dear friend and a phenomenal artist, comes up to me while we're setting up. He was on the bill also. He goes, Dom, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm cutting my hi-hat. I want to play lower. I'm gonna start, dabbling on open-handed playing and match grip. He goes, wow, it's like Cobham and Simon Phillips. I said, yeah. He said, how long have you been working on it? I said, Virgil, as soon as you leave me alone, I'm gonna start. He said, you are out of your mind. I said, this to me is what an artist does. We have to push ourselves in front of people so they can see what true artistic experimentation is. The audience came in, I walked out, I told them this story. Here's where I'm at. I'm gonna start playing for you. We talked, the people applauded, I played, and that was September of 2002. So for these past 18 years, I have been considerably still working and understanding this concept of playing. It has totally changed me and raised my bar. It's opened my mind dramatically because now I'm playing grooves and my right hand has the freedom to go around while my left hand stays here. My right cymbal's here. I go, oh my gosh, this is opening me up. Fantastic that I still feel like that young student practicing and learning.
The moral of the story is bring a hacksaw. So we've got just about 5 minutes left. So has anybody got one last thing they want to ask Dom before we wind up?
You. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Kira, have you got anything?
Well, I was just going to ask you about playing open, because now I think, wow, I got to do it too. But do you have your thumb on top on the hi-hat or to the side? What's your grip like then on the hi-hat?
Excellent question. And this is where you can touch base with Felipe. There are basic 3 hand positions. There's Germanic position. You've got 13 muscles available. That's more of my stronger hit. I've got American position, which is in here. Mm-hmm. And I've got French grip, which is here. On that hi-hat, I might play French grip for a certain feel. Mm-hmm. I might play American and I might play German. So those 3 hand positions will adapt to each individual groove on what feels better, what sound I'm trying to achieve. As long as I have a wide variety of tools, I can then decide what tool will work better for that groove, with that band, in that moment, experiencing the now.
Love it.
Gonna see you playing open-handed next time then, Kira.
It's going to take me a long time.
It's really great to do, even if you're playing with your students. Just play that way with your students. And what's amazing is with younger students, when you present this to them, they don't question it. They just do it.
Yeah.
So when you have a blank, a blank board like that to really teach and learn, there are certain advantages to help them to develop their weaker side by opening them up. And they can play both ways. They can play this way if they want to still play this way. But again, if you're playing your ride cymbal here, that's open also. Open-handed playing just means don't cross. It's the crossing that seems to cause the challenge. No other instrument teaches you to cross. You don't go to piano lessons and they say, boy, here's a nice, wonderful grand piano. Okay, here's the technique now, how we're going to learn. Guitar is here. It's not here.
Yeah.
So we're the only instrument that I think sometimes carries on some dysfunctional past that does not necessarily help.
Yes, cool.
Thank you.
Fantastic. So that's why I say, experiment, try it. And again, challenge yourself, embrace frustration, go for it. And remember, rehearsal is for cowards.
I think
I'll tell that to my band now.
That's a good point to wrap it up. But just before we go, Dom, where can people find you on the internet, and how do they contact you if they want lessons or things like that?
Boy, everything. My website is domfamularo.com. I'm on Facebook. I've got a fan page on Facebook, which has over 80,000 people. I've got Instagram, Global to Dom is my Instagram account. I've got about 35,000 people on that. So, I mean, I've got a YouTube channel under my name. I mean, all these things to me are very, very important. And also, I'm getting more involved now with Modern Drummer. Modern Drummer was taken over, and a new publisher, David Frangione. And I tell everyone to go there and subscribe to Modern Drummer. And if you're a teacher and a serious player, if you go there, absolutely. If you go there and sign up to Modern Drummer and check out what they're doing and sign up on their website. And if you go there, you'll see promotional code. If you put the code MDTAP, MDTAP, you'll get a discount to the magazine. Join the forces globally. This is the magazine that reaches us globally throughout the world, and be a part of it and allow all of what we do to be involved with this incredible drumming community.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Dom. Cool.
Thank you, Dom.
Mark, thanks so much. Thank you, Felipe.
Thank
Thank
very
you,
much.
Gareth. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, guys.
See you soon.
Safe
Cheers.
travels and be well.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.